Sunday, 13th of August 2023. This evening's show, we go over a fairly drab encounter on the south coast as the Seasiders and the Grecians cancel each other out in a game. A few chances, apart from Matty Virtue's golden one to win it at the death, which he fluffed. We'll also be briefly covering the midweek EFL Cup win over Derby and look ahead to Tuesday night's game against Port Vale at Bloomfield Road. I'm John Aspinall. This is Seasiders podcast, match reaction show. Exeter City 0, Blackpool 0. Welcome to the Seasiders podcast match reaction show, coming to you on a Sunday at 8 o'clock. I'll just put it out on Twitter. We're going up, gentlemen, against the Antiques Roadshow, not Songs of Praise, the Antiques Roadshow with the sultry Fiona Bruce. But we've got this even sultrier Nick Smith with us this evening. So,
yeah, no
housewife's choice, Nick.
Not so sure about that, mate. Good evening, John. Good evening, everyone.
Evening. Mitch, good to have you back, mate. Obviously, you appeared virtually via a Vox Pop or whatever that type of video is. But what does that actually mean, a Vox Pop? I've always wondered.
I don't know.
Why do people call them Vox Pops? No one knows, do they?
Vocalization of the population.
Could be right.
I don't know. I wasn't expecting that as the first question, to be fair. I thought you were going to call me an antique.
I like to keep you on your toes, for your return.
I thought you were going to say the sultry Nick Smith and the antique Matt. That's what I thought we were going.
Everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome in the comments. Let us know if you know what Vox Pop means. Andy Grice, unmute yourself. There you go. I'm guessing you don't know.
Philip Hornby, Vox Populi, Latin for the voice of the people.
Oh, there you go. Phil is actually an ITV correspondent, so he's in the industry, I think, aren't you, Phil? So every day's a school day on this show.
Tim would have known that, wouldn't he, with it being Latin?
He probably would. Tim is unfortunately not available this evening. Quick trip to the dry cleaners to launder those mustard pants of his blazer. He's off on it's been another of his middle class weekends. Good evening, Andy. Anyway, I'm waffling on.
Evening, all. Hope you're all well. It's I definitely qualify as an antique.
We probably all do now.
My knees are definitely antique.
Nice day on the Blackpool prom today. So the Red Arrows and the Euro fighter, what's it called, the Typhoon. It's pretty impressive. Right. We've got a very boring game to cover this evening. Exeter 0, Blackpool 0. So let's get going with it. Let's do what we can. Mitch, over to you first. A very slow start for the pool. I've penned. CJ.
We're doing lineups.
Go on then, if we must. Oh, actually, I've got a new.
You've got a new graphic.
I've got a new graphic. Yeah, I've nicked off Mob. Look at that.
Wow.
It's even got the correct 3-5-2 on there. Blackpool lined up as follows: Grimshaw, the back three of Husband, Exeter, Casey, midfield five: Lyons, Carey, Norburn, Morgan. Hamilton as right wing back, Lyons as left wing back, Beasley and Lavs up top. Nick, let's come to you first. Obviously, no sign of the new signing, Mr. Weir up front. Obviously, signed a bit too late.
Yeah.
Do you think he would have featured anyway?
I would have hoped so, because if you look at, we'll cover it later on about him signing, but you look at his goal scoring record in League One for Morecambe last season and his assists. I think he would have certainly added something to that yesterday, maybe that little bit of quality to maybe get us the 3 points. But unfortunately, it was just, a bit too late. And obviously we had Pennington still injured, and I believe Joseph has picked up a new injury on Friday in training. So it's probably about as much as we could do really with who's available. If you look at the bench, there wasn't a lot to come off the bench, really, kind of from an attacking point of view. So, yeah, probably about what you'd expect, really. Obviously, there's the debate about CJ and Lyons, playing on their opposite side, which we'll come on to. But it's Critchy in it, and he's probably trying to match up. So we were all confident, weren't we, after those first couple of games? And it was always going to be a bit tougher against Exeter, though. They were a pretty well organised side, as we saw. So, we'll come on to it about whether it was a good result or not. But I think in terms of the lineup, it's probably about as good as we could do with what's available.
Mitch, over to you now. Phil Helm has just put, looks like you've already done the player ratings. They're actually the FOTMob player ratings, Phil, but I did notice that myself. Be interesting to see what our ratings are. Maybe I shouldn't have put this on before because it may influence people. But Mitch, over to you. What was your thoughts on that team sheet when you saw it?
In an odd way, I quite liked it. I wouldn't necessarily, not every single player there is the first choice player that I would pick. But what I quite liked was it looked theoretically reasonably attacking. I didn't know at the time that Connolly was unavailable. So I was pleased that he'd gone with like the attacking wing backs options. And when I saw the team, I didn't realise that Hamilton and Lyons were inverted. So I thought, well, it looks reasonably attacking. He's gone for 2 attacking wing back options. And my worry was always that what we would see was that kind of classic Critch performance of fairly tricky away game, kind of soak up lots of pressure. But on paper, when I first saw it, I thought, oh no, it looks like he's going for it. So yeah, I was fairly happy.
Andy, the inversion of the wingers, are you a fan of that? Or the wing backs?
Oh, don't get me started on Hamilton. I can't do with it. But I just like, I ideally want to see Lyons on the right at the minute with definitely with no Gabriel, but I just want him to get the best out of what we've got, and maybe Hamilton is really Marmite, isn't he? But
Tim, I think Tim would have been Tim would have been raging at that performance, I think, today, had he been on, or particularly his inclusion in that position.
You just hope that this is going to be this is now, and at the end of the window it's going to look completely different. You just want us to have a bench full of impact players at the end of the window, and that didn't look like it yesterday, did it?
Yeah, that's a good point, Andy. To the room then, the bench was quite weak. Owen Dale, the only kind of option in an attacking type
Rob
player.
Apter was on there. Apter was on there, and I mean, I was happy to see that because I've said this before, but what's the point in having a youth setup if you never play the kids? And having someone like Apter who's been out, done the loans, done the levels, sort of gone through the stages, he may or may not be good enough, but we're never going to know unless we play him. So I was happy to see Apter there.
And I think as well, there's, like I said just before, when you look at who's out, there's not too much else he can do, really, is there? There's, Tribal played against Derby, but he's out of the squad again, and it sounds like he's going to be on his way as soon as he can find a club, or his agent can find a club for him. So he's probably not going to be involved. So there's not too much else he can do at the moment. I think once those players are back, it's it looks completely different for me. You've got hopefully a very decent player in Weir, going off what he did for Morecambe, like I said, and I think I saw a report today. We're looking at a striker. Is it Cosgrove at Birmingham? So we get
Tom Brady to chuck him over. A Hail Mary from Brum.
I think it'll look pretty decent, And like Mitch said, it was a critically tight game yesterday, and we're going to get more of those as the season goes. It's not just a case of we were in the Championship, we rock up anywhere, and we're going to dominate games. That they didn't give us anywhere near as much time on the ball as Burton or Derby did. They were very well organised. They kept the shape really well, and whether it's 2 points dropped or a point gained, we will see at the end of the season. I think they're a reasonably decent side, Exeter, certainly very well organised. So there'll be other teams who go there and have a tough afternoon.
They're unbeaten as well. Well,
yeah,
only 2 games in, aren't we? But,
and we're 3 in, and you said at the start of the season, you win your first one at home, you win away at Derby in the Cup and pick up a point away from home at Exeter. I think most people would have taken that.
Okay, Mitch, on to the first half then. We didn't start particularly brightly, did we? It's quite a laboured first 10 minutes, and the first real chance of the game came on 15 minutes. Dimmy Mitchell getting the best of... how can you describe CJ Hamilton's positioning?
Thompson-esque. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? And I shouldn't lay into Dom because he hasn't played, and he played quite well at Derby, I think. But that's another point on the selection, is that he could have either picked Hamilton or he could have picked Thompson, and he picks Hamilton, and half the crowd go, "Bloody, what's CJ playing?" He picks Tomo, the other half of the crowd go, "What bloody else Tomo playing?" I mean, who else is he supposed to pick apart from other kids? But yeah, he got absolutely done, didn't he? If I remember rightly, Thompson. Not Thompson, I'm doing it again. Hamilton Mitchell went right, sort of cut inside him, and Hamilton just looked lost. I know he has played wing back, but he hasn't played wing back sort of regularly for a long time. I don't think in his career. He sort of filled in a little bit last year, but he looked sort of like a floundering winger who was a bit lost. And Mitchell looked quite purposeful, didn't he? I mean, I made a joke before the game about Hamilton versus Mitchell. It'd be like 2 chickens fighting over a head, but I thought Mitchell seemed to have found a purpose that he didn't really have a lot of the time when he was with us. And I think that's probably why Critch put Hamilton up against Mitchell, because what Mitchell does is very much kind of pick it up and run like a maniac in no particular direction. But he looked a better player than he had been with us. And I think picking up on what Nick said before, I didn't so much think it was us starting terribly, but I was really impressed with how Exeter started. They were so quick. Every time they got the ball, there was no rest. There was no sort of knocking it sideways. They were fast and they were purposeful and they were going forward. And I've got to be honest, they impressed me a lot more than some of the teams in the Championship impressed me last year. Obviously, individual player-wise, they're not as good as some of the teams that we played against, but as a unit, with a purpose that knew what they were doing, I thought they were really, really impressive. And I think we were sluggish. I think we were taken aback a little bit. I think we were a bit shocked by how quickly they played. And it was like they were sort of setting themselves and going out as quickly. And it was like we had no time to set to press, if that made sense. And we didn't play well, but I was encouraged that we kept at it and we didn't really concede many chances. There was the one you've highlighted, but there wasn't much else.
Apart from the Marv one.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that they didn't really make that, did they?
Fair enough. Yeah. Marv made that, didn't he?
Yeah, there was no need for that.
It's a great pass.
I tell you what was interesting about that. I don't know if somebody else wants to come in on that, but I watched it back and I observed something about it. I'll go. Yeah. No, it's just, if I watched it back, because it was like, where did Norburn come from? I was like looking at it thinking, has Marvin got a pass? And I was going, oh, he's supposed, there's not many players showing. And then Norburn comes into the bottom of the frame. And all the while, Norburn with the player who was square from him, who'd come deep to get the ball. I read a few things online with people saying, what we've got to do is make sure Norburn comes back to show for the pass for Marv. But if you watch it back, Norburn's out of the frame, but he's obviously the furthest back player alongside Marv. He's come back going, pass it to me, and Marv's ignored him and gone on that wander up the pitch. And I just thought it was kind of quite interesting that Marv had sort of turned down the obvious pass to the quarterback in Norburn.
I think Marv needs to just hit diagonals from now on if he's going to start playing like that, because he's good. I think was that that Lions chance we had on the left. I'm sure that came from a big Marv diagonal. It was a great ball. Lions cut in, Nick. Should have done better, really. I noticed Lavery was in a lot of space as well. Could have just slipped him in and it'd been 1-0, but it was sort of our best chance of the first half, I guess.
Yeah, it was, and it's just that decision making sometimes, isn't it? And going back to the Marv thing, we covered it on the last show, didn't we? About You know, when he's got the longer he has on the ball, it's almost like the worse it is. You just want him to be able to make a quick pass to someone and it's done. It's when he's got time to ponder and think, what do I do? And you can literally see him being caught in two minds, and then all of a sudden he'll do the wrong thing. And it's whether that then knocks his confidence. Because other than that, you know, about a minute after that, he made a brilliant header from a decent ball in from them. You know, he'll put great tackles in, and that, as we've said, is he's at what he's absolutely brilliant at and why he's in the team. It's just there's been two now, hasn't he, where he's put an attacker in. Thankfully, on both occasions, they've not put the ball in the back of the net. But I don't particularly think he needs dropping or anything like that. It's just it may help, like I said last week, if he's got Pennington back. Although I thought defensively, Casey was really, really good yesterday, and he's done really well since he's come in. But we're going to carry on playing out from the back. That's the modern way, isn't it? And the way Critch wants to play. So it's just almost kind of damage limitation a bit with him, isn't it? That you're giving it him and maybe saying just play the simple pass sideways or a longer diagonal, because we did start hitting it long yesterday, but it was to Lavery, which, you know, his strength isn't in the air, is it?
Marv GT, as soon as Marv does that little drag back, you know the apocalypse is coming.
Yeah, good point.
Cheers, Mark. Do or die defender, though. I think everyone's of the same opinion there.
Yeah, I think like he gets himself out of trouble with these great little last ditch tackles, but a lot of the time, last ditch tackles are because of something that's gone on before, or he's lost the ball, or he's just in the wrong position, and just like he just got to cut this out, hasn't he? He's an accident waiting to happen, isn't it? We're going to concede a goal if we carry on doing it, but it's not that he's playing badly all the time or anything. It's just these little indiscretions when he's got half an hour with the ball.
Mm.
I must say, though, I mean, I think Lee in the comments said, I don't know if he brought it up, said he played okay otherwise, and I thought he played actually pretty well. There was Nick's highlighted one. There was another moment where one of their players had broke through, and he just came across and just eased him out of play, and he was absolutely brilliant defending. It was that bit where he looks like a Premier League player. There was that chance in the second half. I can't remember who had it. It wasn't the one where Hubby had sliced it clear. But it was the one where Casey was kind of not quite getting under it, and their lad was running around Casey, and he did that thing where he appears from nowhere with his telescopic legs, and it was a brilliant challenge. Like, there was some moments there in Marv that were absolutely brilliant. And I think sometimes with defenders and keepers, it's like they make one mistake and everyone goes, "Oh my God, they're going to cost us a goal." But I think Marv probably saved at least two really good shooting opportunities there in a way that I can't really see anybody else doing, because he just has such good timing and reach. And it's like with a striker, they can score twice and then hit the corner flag with a third effort, and everyone thinks they're a hero. But if a defender or a keeper makes one mistake, everybody's like, "Oh, you know, get him out, burn him on a big bonfire." And I think you've got to balance it up with him. He does some stuff that is way above, but he's got this mistake in him. And yeah, we probably will concede a goal from his indiscretions at some point, but he's still class the other 89 minutes. So I thought he was good in that game, aside from that moment where I nearly threw up in my hands.
I had a quick look on the Exeter forum, and there was lots of comments from their fans saying how good we were defensively. You know, they really noticed how well we played defensive. Like you say, when you make that mistake, that's all people focus on rather than what you do over the whole game.
He did a last ditch tackle in the second half from Nomblay as well. Like he got
that's the one I was.
Yeah,
I thought we kept him pretty well shackled.
Casey did a good job at him, apart from that kind of 50p header that he did in the first half.
Casey played really well, didn't he? But it's like he's not as dominant as Marv, and it's like as a ball player, you'd think that central role would suit him because he's really nice with the ball and he's really calm and he uses it really well. But there were a few moments where he just got caught under the ball, or he wasn't sort of that the way Marv sort of just goes straight through and kind of takes everybody out and clears it. I'm not quite sure Casey's that, and it's a bit of a toss up as to which one you'd play in the centre, because they've both got the strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, let's move on to the second half then. Lavery Nicks nearly scored just 3 minutes in.
We're getting away from the German spelling of the first half.
First half. First half of Dynamo Dresden.
That's not in honour of Thomas Tribal.
Yeah. 9.
Yeah, so was it the header from Lavery? He just didn't quite get enough on it, did he? It was kind of straight to the keeper.
Peeled off the keeper from the corner, didn't he? Either side, you got a reasonable connection either side of the keeper, and it's in.
Well, that's it. Yeah, if it's down at the bottom corner, it's in the back of the net, isn't it? Yeah, a bit unfortunate, but I think that's just the way the game went, wasn't it? Really, it was a little bit scrappy.
It was a good chance, that. It was a good chance.
I think we started the second half, Andy. We're a bit brighter, weren't we?
I'm sure when they go in, he talks about moving the ball a bit quicker, and it's just it makes me think that they sometimes we start the game well and it goes off, but yesterday was a bit of a we were brighter, but they were a good side, and I'm really I thought they were really well organised, to be honest. Certainly, I was talking to a lot of people at work today, Bolton fans, and they were impressed with Exeter last season, and saying we took a point from Exeter without conceding. They all thought that was an excellent result. So,
Mitch, Jimmy Husband, pretty solid again, but he had a bit of an error. What I've noticed on the official Twitter feed, they don't mention the Marv Howler at all, and they didn't mention this howler from Jimmy either.
We can't blame Sean. We can't blame Sean for that, because he was speaking words, wasn't he? So I can't think he was doing the Twitter feed.
He was on comms actually. Just let me get this note. I did actually write this down. On 40 minutes, when the other guy from Radio Like said it's not the best game in the world, one for the purists, I think he said, "Oh yeah, just these like kind of boring people that like statistics and things like that and XG." And like he said, "Yeah, someone like me," or words to that effect, one for the purists. So yeah. He did a good job, though. I thought it was quite good.
He got a bit of a panic on, because he on his last comms appearance. He was very much on the corporate. Like, I can't remember what it was, but it was a Mick game, wasn't it? When we were ropey as hell, and he was sort of giving it, "Oh, it's a brave, battling defensive performance this from Blackpool." But at one point, he just went, "Nomblay's going to score if we carry on like this. I can see it coming." And he just sounded really panicked. I think he'd forgotten he worked for the club, which made me chuckle. Anyway,
yeah,
what was your question?
No mention of these defensive lapses on the Twitter feed.
Yeah, I mean, everything I've just said about Marvin away for Jimbo, I thought Jimbo had a decent game. I mean, you don't get quite the level of strengths from Jimbo, but I thought it was a sort of horrible slashed clearance, and he was off balance. And when I used to play, I was a defender, and you do that sometimes. You're running back and you're sort of falling away, and you kick at the ball and you don't get behind it, and it ends up being a really good pass for the opposition. But
he was tidy though, Jimmy. I'm not digging him out.
Yeah,
anyway.
I thought he was really tidy, and I thought he was also great in the last 10, 15 minutes. He really grabbed it, and he was really striding out from the back. He played a lovely little dink ball through for one of our chances, and that's something that he can do in a way that Marvin can't. Is he can really pick the ball up and advance. Way back when he was in his early 20s, he was actually a left winger, I think, or he certainly played some games at left wing. So he's comfortable carrying the ball, and he doesn't always use it. His distribution gets criticised by some, but he has got good vision, and he can hit a good ball forward. So I thought he played pretty well, and I thought him and Norburn. I don't necessarily think everyone's going to agree with me, but I thought him and Norburn were probably the pick of my players. And I think the experience showed, and the fact we have got sort of an experienced spine showed in that game, where Exeter were good. And it wasn't like last year when we faced a team that were half decent and sort of the kids fell over, that the experienced players dug in and stuck at it. And I think Jimmy was one of them.
Yeah. Triple subs, Nick, on 67 minutes. Kenny, Virtue and Dale on, replacing, who was it? Carey, Beasley and Morgan. What do you think Critch was trying to do? That triple sub, win the game or see the game out?
Maybe freshen it up a bit as well. I think if you look at Dale, he gave us a little bit more purpose. Tried to drive forward a bit, got us a couple of corners, and obviously Virtue we'll come on to had a golden opportunity. So yeah, I think probably you always want to win games, don't you? But I think also he's also happy to kind of bide our time in games. And we did it in the Championship a lot, didn't we? Where we might not have loads of the ball, and we get one chance and put it away, and it's a Critch away masterclass. And unfortunately, we did everything other than put the ball in the back of the net at the end. So I think it did freshen us up a little bit, gave us a bit more impetus with Dale. I know end product's not always there with him, but you can say that with a lot of wingers, can't you?
Did we spot, this is a minor, I don't think you'll bring this up in the list, but did anybody else notice Dougal's wonder Hollywood pass that he did just after he'd come on? He ratted it out in the corner and then spam and hit one of the best passes I've ever seen in my life. I feel that I have to bring that to the world's attention on Tim's behalf. It was an incredible pass.
Has he paid you to say that?
God.
Well, he was involved in the pass to Virtue as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he won it back, didn't he?
Yeah. He was decent when he came on.
Sakira will be opening the champagne now, man. That you've actually got it in.
Well, just winding back to this comment, what would Sean have said about the match pre-BFC employee?
They'd have quoted some numbers.
Yeah, he'd gone into robot mode, wouldn't he?
Yeah. He said something we didn't understand about the XPI dropping off on the second half. So obviously that means something. And we'd have all gone, what does that even mean, Sean?
And when in the commentary yesterday, when he switched back to his non-BFC employee days, just see the Julian Winters' right hand fly over and give him a clip round the ear hole. Come on, back in line.
The Sadler bonus went down by 100 quid.
Oh, what was that, Nick? What was that word that I asked you to explain? Was it transition or
recycling?
Recycling the ball. They kept saying it, recycling the ball.
Yeah.
I asked Nick, I said, me and Nick were watching it, and I said, what does he mean? What does it actually mean, recycling the ball?
I assume it means winning it back. Winning the ball back, winning possession back, but it's just one of the many hipster sayings nowadays, isn't it? Like you say, transition between the lines, false nine, all of that.
When we do the H to Z of football hipsters, and finally we can cover that.
We have been talking about doing more feature shows again, haven't we? So the H to Z of the football hipster terms will be covered. I'm sure Sean won't be allowed to come on for the second part of that, but we'll dig out the first half and put it out there. Yeah,
have him with a paper bag on his head as a mystery guest.
With a question mark.
Yeah.
It's when you see it go from the right wing back to one of the central defenders, across the line, out to the left wing back to the central defenders, across the line again, and then back out to the right wing back. And you just see it and you just go, oh my God. And I alluded to it against Burton once some stage in the second half. It was just like people around me were just saying, I'm bored. It wasn't that they're bored. It was just like you just want something to happen a bit quicker in the game to give them some excitement. They want some excitement when they're at the football.
That's what Ollie always said, didn't he? He said, I'm going to play entertaining football.
Yeah.
Entertain people, that's why they're there.
All I get is to entertain me is Colin running at the away fans shouting.
The thing is, though, like I said before, you're not always going to turn up and play
No.
exciting football and win games. You're going to get games like yesterday, and we will probably get a few more over the course of the season. And if you get your home form right, actually picking up these points away from home,
respect
it's
the
no
point,
bad
Nick.
thing.
Respect. You got to respect
Well, that's
the
it.
away
I mean,
point.
you could say we didn't. If you don't play particularly well away from home against a decent organised side and don't get beat, and their only sort of main chances are down to our mistakes, it's not that bad, you know. We've got the game on Tuesday, we can get 3 points against Port Vale. I think it's a bloody good start to the season.
Well, if Virtue tucks that one away,
and then everyone's saying it's brilliant away performance, aren't they?
Critchley masterclass.
Yeah. Exactly. It becomes an absolute classic Critch masterclass. Soak it up, soak it up, soak it up, bring on fresh legs, score the goal. But he doesn't. And, you know, and I agree with every word Nick said. And Grimmy made one save in that game, which was that one that looped up. It was after the husband mistake where it was a terrible shot. One, he kind of like lollipopped it up in the air and Grimmy caught it under the bar. So it wasn't even a proper save. I mean, that was their only shot on target. They flashed a couple across the goal. They had one that went wide and a couple of tackles. They had a lot of possession and they impressed us in the way we played, but they had nothing. They didn't threaten us. And as much as goals win games, you have to score a goal to win a game, but it's a lot. I sound like a really boring football manager, but it's a hell of a lot easier to win a game if you're not conceding goals.
Mm. And the other, going back to a little bit of point earlier on, is that was Virtue coming on. If that's Jensen Weir starting and Carey coming on, or Carey starting and Jensen Weir coming on, that's better, and that makes us stronger. And maybe Jensen Weir is coming in, and is that the end of Virtue? Because like maybe he isn't enough. He's a good lad. Critchley likes him, but is he enough for what we want to do to compete at the towards the top of the league?
He should have finished that chance. Really, it was quite a tame effort. Almost the keeper's committed himself. Keeper's for me telegraphed what he's doing. Gone to ground early. Quick dink over him and it goes. Or could have even driven it first time. It was a kind of a powder puff finish almost. We're being a bit harsh.
I think it was a bit of both. I mean, he could have chipped it, he could have done a Cruyff turn and then backheeled it into the net, but he hits the target and he hit it reasonably hard. I watched it back, he hit it reasonably hard and the keeper was off his line like lightning. And the keeper gambled, didn't he? He went down quickly at his feet and he got that gamble right. And I think it's a bit of both. He probably could have done it, probably could have done something else, but he didn't slice it into the top of the stand or anything. He did what half the time he scores that with that finish, half the time he doesn't, and he didn't. So, do you know he had literally half of our shots in that game?
Virtue did.
Yeah.
Speaking of stats, I've made another graphic with match stats on.
Oh, who needs Sean? You're gonna end up getting employed by the club at this rate. Look at this.
Doubt that. Somehow I doubt that.
we talked about that boardroom chat.
I think hell will freeze over before that happens. So we had 59%. Oh, sorry, X had 59 ball possession to our 41. They had an IXG of 111 to our 0.51. That surprised me, actually. That almost, from a statistical point of view, says that they were the better team and they had the better chances, and I don't think that's the case. So it's a lot of bollocks, XG.
Have a look at the big chances.
11. Is that say 11, John? The eyesight's not great.
Yeah, total shots 11-4.
Yeah.
We had
but the big chances.
What's the big chance though? We had two. We had Lions as well, didn't we? We had Lavery and we had.
And you'd maybe class their one from Marv's mistake as a big chance for them, perhaps. But
they didn't get a shot away though, did they?
No, true.
But I think that momentum graph's quite telling of the game. I think it's probably accurate. Quite like those momentum graphs. Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yes. Need some music in the background next time you bring that up.
A minute on
Lift
stats is
music.
long enough, I think.
Okay, we've done the stats. Let's go over to player ratings. First up is Danny Grimshaw, and you can start, Andy. Didn't have a lot to do, really, apart from that one high ball he dealt with. Quite
3
comfortable.
games, 2 games for him, 2 clean sheets. So, and there's not a lot to do, is there? So, what can you give him?
7.
7. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's about all you can do, isn't it? Because he's not done anything exceptional.
Well,
But
give him use the
he's
FPRS and give him a
keeping
plus.
7.
His kicking was all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus his
FPRS
his
it.
kicking was
Clean
fine.
sheet. You got to get a 7+ if it's clean sheet, haven't you?
7+, yeah. So Kieran will be happy.
And Nick, you can have Jimmy Husband, one mistake, but an otherwise pretty solid performance.
That's it, yeah. He did have that one mistake, but other than that, I thought he was probably one of our better performers. Nothing amazingly spectacular, but again, it's a clean sheet. I don't know, 7+.
So that's fair. Big Marv, Mitch.
Well, what I'm going to say, I won't repeat it, but what I said before, he made that horrendous howler. So let's take 1 off him for that, because that was horrible. But otherwise, played really well. I'd have otherwise given him an 8+ probably. So
Point off
give
for
him
the
a
howler.
7.
Ooh,
I think a
7.5.
7 is fair.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Ollie, Casey, Andy.
Similar lines, really. Similar lines. Doesn't do much wrong there. I just prefer Pennington, and Pennington gives you seems to give you a bit more comfort in looking at the game, and maybe gives a bit more support to Ekpiteta. But did nothing wrong, and to be fair,
7. It's another 7, isn't it?
It is. It is another 7.
We need to get some paddles, don't we, for this?
Len Goodman, here we go.
Right. Who wants CJ? If only Tim was here. Nick, you're more balanced, so you can have CJ.
Cheers.
For me, CJ, he's playing out of position. He's not.
Well, that's
a
the first
wing
thing I was
back,
going to
and
say. I think you need to take that into
he's getting a bum
consideration.
deal, isn't he? Really, I think.
Yeah,
he's not a wing back. He's a left winger. He's not a right
exactly.
winger.
And I think if he's having a shocker in his best position, you've probably got justification to be, scoring him a bit lower. But he's kind of I think it's probably almost like I said at the start. I can't remember who mentioned it. Is it a bit of a sort of a filling in, a stopgap until we get players back or a couple signed, and it's maybe you're either playing him left wing or he's one to come off the bench as an impact sub. At the moment, it's kind of, can you do this job as an inverted winger? And you're not going to get a great cross from probably either side when you're playing your players in that position. I'll go 6.
I think that's fair. A fair summary, Nick. Albie Morgan, Mitch.
Yeah, okay. This is an interesting one because I can't actually remember him playing.
I'm just thinking that. Honestly.
Which I suppose him and Carey had the same, I noticed Carey more because he's my new chosen one. He'll probably be changing his getting security details on the advice of Gaz, but he didn't have a bad game. He takes a lovely corner. I'm just saying things that we already know about him, aren't we? He takes a nice corner. He dreads it, but he when we'd signed him and sort of watching a couple of the pre-season games, what I was hoping was you'd see that player buzzing around and sort of taking pot shots from the edge of the box and things like that, and a play with a bit of a trick in him maybe. And he was. I'm going to damn him. I'm going to damn him with. Do you remember when we signed Ethan Robson? And everyone said, "Oh, Ethan Robson, he looks really good," because he just looked good. but then he never quite was. And I thought Morgan had a bit of an Ethan Robson-y game where you can't really put my finger on him doing anything wrong. And he did a couple of nice things that looked classy, but he didn't really have any great impact on the game, if that makes sense. So I will give him a 7-.
And just going back to him, Mitch, he's I think I spoke about him in a previous pod, and he split the Charlton fans. They were split about him. Some really liked him, and some saw the worst of him, if you like.
I'd like to see him properly in the flesh in a live game, because I was on holiday for the first one, and then obviously I wasn't at Exeter. And I'd like to see him properly in the flesh, because I think sometimes on the telly you can lose players because you're following the camera and stuff. You don't see the movement properly. And I really like what I saw of him in the flesh in pre-season. I really liked him. He looked classy. So I'd like to see him in a proper game before deciding what I think.
He did well against Burton first half.
Yeah, okay.
The midfield was packed as well, wasn't it, this game? There were matching us. It was a very busy midfield, so I think it was hard to stand out there. But one player who did stand out once again, Andy, was Ollie Norburn. A class act once again, and not afraid to do the defensive work as he bailed Marv out in the first half.
I think when he bailed Marv out, someone put in the WhatsApp chat about build the statue now or something like that. He's just a class act, and he's just really good. And in what we've been waiting for, and you just cry that we could have had him before his ACL as well. And we were just about to sign him, weren't we?
How he is so good, but his career is not that spectacular when you look at it. When you look back at his record, it's like, he hasn't particularly played at any great level for anyone particularly big. And he looks like he should have been. He looks like one of them players going, hang on, how have we got him? He's brilliant. It's weird.
I think so. Sometimes you're in the right place as well. Again, probably, hearing who was in for him, and Bolton made a big play for him. Big play for him, and they're going well. And we did well to snatch him off Bolton, because I think he's a Bolton lad as well. So he's just a great player, isn't he? He's just really, really good, and we wanted someone like him for years. Anyway, I could wax lyrical on Norburn, so definitely an 8. Do we go an 8+? I don't know.
Yeah, that's saving
8+.
That was out of this world. It was a double tackle as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because he goes through and makes the first tackle, and then kind of throws himself across the ground and wins the loose ball on its second tackle. It was brilliant. That alone is worth it.
He takes Marv's point back to himself.
Yeah, well, I took a point and a half off Marv in the end, so you give him the plus, he gets that sorted.
There you go. 8+.
Nick Sonny Carey, again a bit anonymous.
Yeah, he was. It didn't really happen for him, did it? I think it was just a game where we sort of cancelled each other out a bit as well. So 6.
Okay,
I think it might have suited Carey if he'd have been a sub yesterday and come on when Virtue come on. And that would have suited Carey more, because he's better when the game opens up a little bit.
And I think he'd have finished that chance as well, Andy.
There is that.
Mitch, Andy Lyons playing on the left-hand side, left wing back.
He did all right. Obviously, it was that cut in for the goal. Apart from that, as an attacking force, he wasn't, massively, but nobody really was he? Wasn't massively influential in attacking sense. But that lad who was on loan from Chelsea, I can't remember his name, he was good. He was really, he was a whippet, and he was tricky, and he was constant on the move. And I thought defensively, actually, Lyons stuck to his job pretty well, and he didn't look like he was floundering in the way sometimes CJ did. So I thought, wrong side in a game where he's not really getting to play to his strong suit, which is attacking. He did all right. So I'll give him, what's all right in this game? 7. 7
plus.
Yeah,
7
plus. Go for plus.
Okay, up top now, Andy, Shane Lavery, been given just quite a few high balls to deal with, long balls rather. Not really played to his strength, so we didn't really have much to feed off, did he, throughout the match?
He's. I don't think any of us advocate playing high balls into Lavery apart from the corners, and which he does well with, but he tries his backside off as such, and he gives everything. But some days he's going to have a good day, and some days you're going to get those games. We've got to create the chances for him, haven't we? Against Burton, he made that goal himself, didn't he, by harrying the defender? But we need to create more for him, and that's the problem Yates had, that we didn't create quite enough, and so hopefully we're going to sort that out, and so he doesn't have to fight in the air, and he's getting stuff on the floor. And there'll be games where maybe they're not right for him away in those sort of games, and maybe we're better going with a different option. So anyway, it was just an average game for him, wasn't it?
5.8 he got on FOTMob, worst player rating. 5.8, the lowest.
Well, he missed the one good chance he had, didn't he? He didn't convert it, so 6 plus me.
Well, Lavs runs around. He can't make his own chances, can he? Lavs feeds off other players, and if you're not teeing up Lavs, then he's not going to score any goals. He's never going to pick it up and do that kind of Jerry run from deep, go scoop past 3 players and spin round somebody, drag it back on the 6-yard backs and put it in the opposite corner goal. What he is, he's the fox in the box. He'll run onto through balls, and so we didn't make anything for him.
No,
he had nothing to feed off.
Absolutely nothing. No. Finally, Jake Beasley, Nick. Again, like one of those players you forgot was playing almost.
Yeah, but again, it's for strikers, it's about service, isn't it? And what did he get? A lot of the long balls tended to be more to Lavery. And again, I think there's one or two who've sort of said, "Oh, he's not the answer." But he was the answer the other night against Derby, wasn't he? When he scored 2. So I think it's very early days to be writing anybody off. But he did do a great deal yesterday. But again, what chances was he given? We didn't. Like I said, we cancelled each other out yesterday. So I will go 6.
Can I just say something about Bees quickly, which is, all hilarious joking about our former target man aside, I did genuinely think he was a good footballer, in the sense that the position and the role that he played, he knew exactly how to play it. And it is a really hard job to be a good target man, because you've got to go and look for the game. So what you'd find is, although a player like Medine, not very mobile, he would shift where he's playing on the pitch. He'd come deeper. He'd go wide. And what Bees to me looks like he does is he goes, "Oh, I'm playing in the left-hand channel," and plays the left-hand channel. And I was watching him because I sort of like, I've seen some stuff in him that I like. I jokingly said he jumps like John Murphy, and I still think he does. And I liked that. And there's seen some stuff that he liked. He had some lovely little touches yesterday, which sort of belied the fact he lumbers around the pitch a bit. He had some lovely little touches every now and again. But I kept thinking, come deeper, come and look for that ball. If you're not finding it, your job is to be the pivot for the attack. Your job is to go and make that island of space for players to get round you. And it was like he's still a relatively inexperienced player. He's still a relatively young player. And I feel like your sort of gnarly 32-year-old target man would have adapted the way they were playing, or somebody on the side should have been bees, get deeper, go and find the game. And I think that's where he needs to learn. Technically, he's all right, and he's got kind of the makings of he's kind of quite good at linking up. He's got quite good vision around him. He's actually quite good in an aerial duel, but it's finding the game for me that he needs to do, if that makes sense.
I'd agree. And like you say, Medin's experienced, though, isn't he? And he's played hundreds of games, and that comes with that experience. And that's something they probably need. Critch needs to work on with him. That right, yeah, you're doing this well, but when this is happening in the game, this 100%. Is what we need you to do. And he's still not played a lot of football for us, has he? You know, he signed in a couple of games and had a really bad injury. So I think we probably need to take that into account as well. I do think as well we need, and we are, you know, looking to get another striker, aren't we? Just to give us, whether it's a plan B or improving plan A. But it's very early days, isn't it? So hopefully that's something he can work on and, you know, still have a key role to play.
Okay, round the room quickly. Man of the match, Mitch.
I think probably I'm torn between Norburn and Husband, but I think probably Norburn was pretty faultless, so I'll go for Norburn.
Andy,
Norburn.
Nick.
Yeah, I think like I say, Jimmy had a good game as well, and I thought Casey was good as well, but probably Norburn.
Norburn for me as well. Clean sweep. I think that's 2 out of 2 for Norburn on the league games. Obviously, we played Derby in the week also. Let's briefly cover that. Nick, good to see us progress to the round 2 for once of this cup.
Absolutely, and then get the cracking draw away at Wolves. It's always
the way,
isn't it?
I was disappointed when I saw it come out, but the more I thought about it, the more I think, well, they're definitely going to play the B side, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, it'll be a decent trip to Wolves, big stadium, Premier League ground.
They're pure chaos at the moment as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they got rid of the manager, didn't they, pre-season? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, going back to Derby, you know, obviously we made quite a few changes, and it was just I've not obviously seen the game, but from the highlights I've seen, I think we kept the ball really well. Great for Beasley to get a couple of goals. I know one of them was kind of gifted, wasn't it, from the mistake from the Derby player, but the first goal was a decent move and a good finish, and it's just nice to be in the second round of a cup competition, isn't it? You know, we've all supported the team a long time, and decent cup results and wins are sort of few and far between. So hopefully we can go and do like something at Wolves, like you say. They'll probably make 11 changes, and we made a few changes the other night, but it was pleasing to see that there wasn't really a drop off in performance. Now, again, it's early days, and Derby had I think they lost the first game, didn't they, in the league? I know they won yesterday, but yeah, just pleasing to get through for me.
When was the last time we had a decent run in that cup? I'm just racking my brain now.
League Cup or any cup?
The League Cup.
We had Arsenal at some point in that, but I can't remember at what stage.
Was that not FA Cup? Was that during the boycott?
What round was that?
We had Arsenal in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
we had the infamous bus day.
We had Arsenal in the League Cup in the boycott, because I can remember watching it on my laptop thinking, who the fuck are all these players? And just thinking how weird it was.
That was the infamous bus day.
How little it meant to me and all that. I distinctly remember that game and sort of watching these Tangerine players trotting out and just thinking, I don't recognise any of them because I'd stopped going completely. And
that was the FA Cup, though, wasn't it? It was a Saturday, that one. It
was
an FA Cup, yeah.
It
was FA Cup, yeah.
Oh, of course, because that was when the bus got stopped and everything.
It was on BBC, wasn't it? But yeah, I think who's mentioned in the comments,
we had Arsenal in the League Cup.
Aston Villa third round. Joseph Smith, yeah.
Yeah, I can't really remember. Even thinking back to the 80s, we were always crap in it.
Chelsea?
Yeah, I was at that. We didn't we lose 4-1 at home?
Yeah,
we beat them by 2 goals in the way. I remember going. I went to that.
Yeah. Well, I remember I went to the home leg and I was in the West Paddock. I know I went in the South Paddock, but I couldn't get tickets for the South Paddock. It was in the West Paddock. I remember Hullet was on the flight. It was mental seeing Hullet, and we got battered. And then I remember the return leg. I'd gone out with my mates on the park, and I'd taken a little radio with me. And like I've said before, I grew up in Wigan, and all my mates, none of which gave a shit about Blackpool because they're all like Wigan lads. We ended up sat around my radio, all of us drinking cider, whilst we absolutely battered Chelsea. And then everyone thinking, fucking hell, they're gonna do it, and we didn't quite do it. It was that way around, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We got twatted at home and then nearly beat them at Stamford Bridge. There you go.
I actually went to that.
Memories with Mitch.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying last week that we need. I think it's good because we do get to play some of the players that don't normally play in the league games, maybe, and keep them sharp. But also, it gives us a chance to get some momentum. Winning is a habit. Winning's a habit, and if we do well in the cup, it invariably will go through to the league form. I'm not having it at all that it's a good thing concentrating on the league. That's a defeatist mentality to me. Just play and win.
Have you been drinking the Raggy Aid before you came on, Andy? Sort of thing. Raggy had come out with this, a rousing speech. Love it.
Tangerine cup full of Raggy Aid on the table.
I've got the Arsenal facts. We played him in the League Cup on the 31st of October 2018, which is the game that I remember watching at home, going, who the fuck are all these players? But then we also played him in the FA Cup 5th January 2019, which was where it kicked off, if I remember rightly.
In what way kicked off?
Well, it was all with the bus being stopped and all that.
The bus got
when
stopped.
Neil went.
Yeah,
on
Neil Holden got
yeah.
on the roof and all that stuff. Yeah,
and then they had the bloody whatever the luck of Doncaster or something like that were played at Preston the following day, and the Doncaster bus turned up, so the Arsenal got on that and came to Blackpool on the Doncaster bus. So they had the incredible luck for that to happen. Else they would have been arriving in taxis.
Dave Coleman, we won the Football League War Cup in 1943. David, for those of a certain vintage, that phrase was definitely made. Well, David is of vintage years, but yeah.
Well, we won the best trophy ever in the war, which was I think it was called the Cup Wins Cup, because it was split. The leagues were split. The leagues and the cups were split into North and South to reduce the travelling in the war, and then the winners of the North and the South played each other in a final to declare who was the overall champion, and we won it. And I'm sure it was called the Cup Wins Cup, which is the best name ever.
Was Pele and Sylvester Stallone and John Walker playing in this team?
Yeah, and half the Ipswich squad.
Mike Summerby,
John Walk,
Russell Osman.
Was Bobby Moore in it as well?
He was, yeah.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Escape to Victory. Watch it if you've not seen it. Right, just before we go, we've got Port Vale. Tomorrow, they got an absolute hammering on the opening day of the season. Was it 7-0 at Barnsley?
They did.
They got leathered, but they beat
Reading yesterday and cost me
Reading
£173 on my accumulator. So we definitely need to beat them on Tuesday.
They're one of them teams, Nick, that you never back against. Vale.
Well,
I'm quite looking forward to going to Port Vale away. I've not been for years.
Christmas.
Years.
Christmas, John.
Fun fact about Port Vale, about Vale Park, right? Did you know what Vale Park was originally intended as? It was built in the 50s. It's not actually that old. It was built in the 50s, I think, and they intended to build it into a Wembley of the North. So they made all like the first layer of banking and stuff, and then went, yeah, they did seriously. They built the first
Owen
layer.
Oyston wasn't the architect and founder of this vision, was he?
If you look back, historically, it held a huge amount when he was terracing, like a ridiculous amount for Port Vale, but they never finished it. So it was just like the base. If you like a sort of super stadium, but just the first tier of it. And they never finished it off. And there's all these designs online of like what Vale Park would have been had it ever been finished. And then in the 90s and 2000s, when after Hillsborough and that, they sort of like tacked roofs on here and there and made it a bit more normal. But it was originally supposed to be the like Wembley of the North, in sort of like Midlands area, centre of the country and everything.
Well, they had that main stand. They had the main stand that they didn't finish for until the current owners took over. I think it's Shanahan or Carol Shanahan, and the owner now.
Yeah.
And they
see
got this
through it,
main
couldn't you?
stand
You
that
could see through that. Yeah,
Oh,
I remember that.
it was like still half bricks and things like that. Just like, and it stayed like that for about 5 or 6, 7 years or something until this owner took over.
Andy, it's almost as tin pot as having a golf stand at your football ground for years and years and
Who
years.
would do that?
Or a car park for years and years and years. Who do that? What sort of tin pot outfits do that?
The Carl Oyster and Gene Kelly. My God.
Anyway,
So how do we think this game's going to go then?
3-0 Blackpool.
27-0. Sonny Carey's going to score them all. No, I fancy is 3-1.
Andy.
We're not conceding. 4-0. We're not conceding. Grimmy doesn't want to let any in.
He's not conceded a goal for 4 games now, Grimmy, with Norwich included. Oh no, 3 because he didn't play in the League Cup. Forget that. I'm getting carried away with my facts. I think I'm Sean McGinley.
In all seriousness, I think it's a really important week for us this because we've got Orient on Saturday as well, haven't we? And I think, we need to be looking at 6 points, really, in all seriousness. There'll be some sides going away at the top, and we need to make sure we're up there and not dropping silly points at home. This is a reasonably good start for us. By the way, with the fixtures, they've been kind to us at the start to give us confidence. So 6 points this week could be huge. I'll put my Sakira hat on and say we'll probably lose 2-1 then.
Well, they're very leaky. They've let in 2 against Fleetwood, 7 against Barnsley. Right, they kept a clean sheet against Reading, but Reading have got all sorts of problems, haven't they? So
this is a weird thing to say with that in mind. Is I'd almost like us to concede because if we can, I'd almost like us to go right. They concede goals. What's the point in trying to shut up shop against a side with a leaky defence? Get at them, try and score 4 or 5, and if you concede 2 doing it, so what? And I think that's a side to us that we need to have, isn't it? Yes, it's good controlling games. The other 2 games with Derby and Burton, we've controlled those games. We've got the goals and then controlled them sort of pretty vice-like, got the win, 2-0, easy, 0-0 draw. But I'd like a bit of chaos. I'd like a bit of chaos and I'd like a bit of attacking, a bit of excitement. And I think some of the forward players probably need us to play like that to get the best out of them,
Do you think this Jensen Ware will start then? Because obviously he wasn't registered in time, but he will be. And he's a box-to-box goal-scoring midfielder and maybe just the sort of thing we're looking for. Setting up Lavery, a bit more creativity in there. Maybe,
yeah. I don't know. Critch tends to be fairly cautious in who he brings in, isn't he? I wouldn't be surprised to see him sort of rotate things a bit, but it's Critch and he'll probably bring Kenny Dougal in and Matty Virtue in because it's their turn to play now because that's what he does. But yeah, I'd hope to see Jensen Weir start, and I think players like him and Carey and if Dale gets a start and that sort of player, they need us to be going for it. They're not you're not going to get the best out of them just playing percentages football. So
I think as Mark said there, Mitch, we need 90 points minimum for automatic. We have to go all out to win these 2. You're right, Mark. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's put it much better than I did. We have to go out to win rather than go out to not lose. So, hopefully we will.
Score prediction before we go.
We've done them, haven't we? I said 3-1. Nick said 3-0. I can't remember what Andy said.
I can't remember what Andy's was.
4-0.
4-0.
Okay. I'll go for 0 as well. I think we're going to sneak it 1-0. I'll go for a more negative one, but I think we'll just win the game 1-0. Right, on that note, I think we've gone over an hour, haven't we? Thanks for your company this evening, gentlemen. Just before you go, everyone, if you're watching on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Again, we've got a lot of people watching these videos but not everyone subscribing. If you do that, do us a favour. That would be much appreciated. And we'll be coming back after the Orient game, I think, next week. And what remains to be said is thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. And up the pool. Come on against the Valiant. Up the pool.
Oh.